education without implementation is entertainment, right? So a lot of people will just overeducate, and never actually do anything. And that's the best way to overcome your fears is to take action, right?
Yes. One of the best ways to optimize management and to increase the value of your self-storage facility is through property management. And that means you're going to need really good property management software. That's where Tenant Inc. comes in. These guys have a huge amount of tools at your fingertips that you guys can deploy to extract the maximum amount of value at your storage facility. Again, this is Tenant Inc. Be sure to check them out. They're all things property management. It's truly your one-stop shop. Check them out. Link is in the show notes.
Welcome everybody to Self-Storage Income, and I am excited about today's episode because we're interviewing my friend and a member of our inner circle, Mike. Well, he went like all out. He got a big deal. Really excited to go through this with him and hear how it went down, especially in these challenging times that we've been in the last 8 months. So this should be good.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to dive into it and let Mike share his story with everybody because, again, it has been challenging for a lot of people. And it's been amazing to see the members of our group come in. And we've had several that were able to get deals done in 2023. It was super hard to do. 2024 is off to a slow start here, hoping to see some changes. But no, really excited to dive into it and figure out how exactly are these guys coming in, utilizing this information, going out, finding deals, getting them done, and building that financial freedom and wealth.
That's right. So with that, Mike, welcome, man. Appreciate you jumping on here to talk to us about what you've been up to and how you got this done.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. I always enjoy seeing you guys, and it's cool that we're on the opposite ends of the United States here. So
yep.
Thank God for technology. So it feels like I'm sitting in there with you guys in the dinosaur head.
That's right. Exactly. Well, why don't you give people just a quick intro to you and, what you do, how you got interested in this, and give a little backstory here so it gives context to people before we dive into the deal.
Yeah, sure. No problem. So I've been, winding it way back. I'm an ex-corporate guy. For 8 years, worked for one of the biggest corporations in the world, traveled around, lived in Europe, been to Asia, done some work over there, came back to the United States. I'm in the Charlotte, North Carolina market. Been full-time as a real estate investor since 2005. Started with lease options on single-family homes, taking over people's mortgages subject to the existing financing, reselling them on terms or a lease to own. Then glorious 2008 hit, and that was our first downfall, right? Our downturn. Luckily, I made it through, not without a couple of gashes, but when everyone else was going out of business, I somehow slid through. So that was tough. And then I got into during those times, we developed like a foreclosure short sale business. So we were helping people save their homes and by doing short sales with all the banks. And that was just a ton of negative energy all the time. I mean, it was great to help people and whatnot, but you could be working at the beginning, you're working on a file for 4 to 6 months, and then it may or may not close. And by the end, it was like banks were like, we're not approving these. And it was 18 months in and all that work, you're not getting paid. So that was challenging. So coming out, that rounds me out to about 2012, 2013. I said, hey, I always love building and developing things. So I figured out in the Charlotte market, all the REITs were coming in at that time and some of the bigger players, and they were buying chunks of houses and renovating them and renting them. So what I did is just develop like an acquisition strategy to basically get everything in the outskirts of the city and the county. And I built my team to travel, my rehab team. So we traveled around putting nice product in like more of the country, tertiary environments. And that went really well. People received the product well. So I did that, and then I've been involved in probably just about every kind of single family strategy, long-term rentals, short-term rentals. We still own, most of my portfolio is that and small multifamily, and then now storage. So that's kind of the background. I've been in storage 3 years now. I knew a couple other buddies in another mastermind group, just more of a real estate mastermind that had been presenting on it, and it looked interesting. And then, believe it or not, I used to run TV ads for our single family business. So someone had called in off one of my ads and had a rental property, and we didn't get that deal, but he said, "Hey, I've got this storage units over here." And we're like, "Well, what's that?" And then it resonated in my mind. I'm like, "Oh, this is what my other buddy was talking about." So I called my other buddy. I'm like, "What do you think?" He's like, "I think you should do the deal." It was a small one. So we still have that one. And that's how we got in 3 years ago. So yeah, it was kind of a 15, 20 years down to 2 to 3 minutes, I guess.
So off a TV commercial ad you were doing.
Yes,
That's
I was
funny.
on TV.
That's a new one.
You know, it's like, "I'm Mike Moulton and I want to buy your house." Like, and it was like, it was somewhat cheesy, but it converted. So
That's what matters.
yeah, I had some media guys and they're like, "This is what you should do." I said, "Okay, that's cool."
Now,
so
how
that's
big
basically
was
how
it?
that was. I'm sorry, AJ, what was that?
Just how big was that?
Oh, it's just under 10,000 square feet.
Okay, because it's very different. So now let's walk into the one you've just now done, because it's very different, right?
Very different. Yeah, I just bought that one free and clear. And my wife, Jean, so just bringing Jean into this conversation, she joined me coming up on 3 years ago in our business. So she was an executive at a large bank for years, had a team of 250 people. And we had so if anyone works with your spouse, it's kind of it's an interesting dynamic in itself, but she handles all the back end and integrations. So I go out as the visionary and the sales guy and raise money or get them financed and get things bought, and then dump them over to her to make it work. She loves that little facility though. It's like her baby. So I don't know if I can ever pry it out of her hands because she loves it so much. So we've been managing that one. And we've got another smaller one we've been managing too. And we've got some expansion stuff we're doing with those I can talk about later too.
Nice. And geographic area.
Those are similar. They're still in the Charlotte MSA. So they're like 25 to 45 minutes from Charlotte. Yeah.
Okay, but all self-managed.
Yes, those are all self-managed. So I would say that to anybody, you know. Someone asked me this week, people call me all the time with stuff and they're like, "Do you think I should buy a smaller facility?" And my first question is, "Do you have a facility?" And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "Then I think it's a great idea to buy a facility." Because I mean, you know, they're not overly complicated at that level, and it's just a great way to understand all the different pieces of it. So
I couldn't agree more. And when people want to get in the storage game, everything, I look at them, I'm like, you know, the best education you can have is to buy a small facility and run it yourself. There's like you said, there's not a lot that you can destroy here. It's not like a lot you can go wrong, right? But you're gonna get it and you're gonna understand it. And storage is not like other asset classes necessarily. So it's a really good exposure, especially before you want to go get bigger deals.
Yep, exactly. And, you know, a lot of people are, you know, just education without implementation is entertainment, right? So a lot of people will just overeducate and never actually do anything. And that's the best way to do things is to overcome your fears is to take action, right? So
yes.
Yeah, you might fall on your face, but like you said, I mean, it's a smaller deal. What is the worst that's going to happen? And that's what all my other buddies back that kind of were telling me about storage were like, "Dude, at the end of the day, it's storage. Like, you're not going to fall on your complete face if you do it, you know, follow these basic parameters." And I'm like, "Okay, that's cool." So
yeah, no, I love it. So now the big deal that you've done, when'd you close on that one? You guys got your 2 smaller deals, and were you actively now hunting for more deals? Had you made the decision, or were you still doing small multi and single family and storage and not really sure? Or, you know, how'd that go? Did you say we like this better or not? Or was it just a natural thing where you just kind of kept going?
Yeah, no, it was deliberate for sure. We've been So about a year ago, a year and a half ago, actually, I hired a full-time acquisitions guy from Marcus and Millichap to help me acquire facilities. So we're coming off of I developed 12 modular homes in North Carolina, and I've got a flex space conversion I'm doing near downtown Charlotte, and so I'm like, I don't have time to do this. Like, I want to do this 100%, but we had a slew of projects and other asset classes and things that still need my time. So, one of the learnings, I hired this guy, great, super smart MBA guy, used to be a broker for mobile home parks with Marcus. And what we found out, I had similar to single family, is building an acquisition model. So I've got offshore resources, building out a database of storage owners, and we're doing some marketing. But we were over analyzing the heck out of these things at the beginning. Like, we underwrote 38 deals, and this gentleman's an awesome dude, but oh my gosh, we were just analysis paralysis these deals. And I'm like, I'm never going to buy anything if we keep going this route. So we on a positive note, parted ways, because it wasn't working right. And I'm like, if I can't explain this on a napkin high level anyway, without needing a 700 input spreadsheet, like, to at least go to the next level, I don't want to even get involved with it. So that was a learning. So I've had the offshore team building out. We've got a database. We just use Monday.com. We had Salesforce for our single family business. It was just too much overkill. And now I'm at the point where, so storage is what I want to do 100%. I need help now. Like, believe it or not, I'm good at deal structuring. I'm not the ultimate sales animal. It's not really my skill set, although I'm really good with people and I can work deals when I get the warm lead, but I just need like almost like inside sales horsepower onshore. So that's what as of last week, I'm finally cleared out all of these other development things we were doing. And actually, we just sold one of them today. It was good. I just came from a closing. And now I'm just doing an office build out for myself. We had been remote since COVID in May of 2020. So now I'm building back out a really cool office space off of Uptown Charlotte, and we're going to do some cool stuff there. So it should be good.
That's awesome. And awesome. So walk us through this deal that you got. How'd you find this one?
Yeah, that this is really probably just shows you what my strengths are, because it's more people and relationships. But I was hanging out with a buddy of mine at a real estate mastermind down in Florida in June, and he actually sent me a text, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to play hooky on this last day of this event?" And he sent me a picture of a Polaris slingshot, and he's like, "I'm renting this, and we're driving down to another buddy's. And we're going to go out on the boat and hang out in a sandbar and grab lunch. Are you in?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm in."
Yeah.
So he and I Uber over and pick up this slingshot, and we're flying down, there's a Clearwater beach heading down the coast. And about halfway there's like 18 wheelers and dump trucks next to us. And I look at him and I'm like, we both have families. This probably wasn't the smartest move, but hey, we'll go with it. So anyway, we're hanging out for the day, and on the way back, he's like, and I know he had just gotten into storage as well. He had just purchased a facility in upper state New York, and he's like, I've got a bunch of single family homes that I've got to refinance, like triple digits worth. And he's like, I think this deal, I've got five-year financing with the seller, but I just don't think it's going to work out for me at this time. So I said, so we ride back, we get back to the hotel, and I'm like, do you mind if I take a shot at that? And he's like, no problem. So he made an introduction to the sellers. So I was going over the phone with the sellers, and the sellers, I will say, and they're still very tight with us today. I mean, they're great guys, two brothers, senior brothers. My wife is like buddies with them now, like talks all the time. They still walk the facility daily because they got like maybe every other day, because they're just trying to help out and whatever, and they want us to succeed, which is great. But we ended up packing up the kids and we said, hey, we live in Charlotte. This is in Kentucky. I love Nashville all day long. So we just cruised out to Nashville. Then Gene and I went up for the day, met with these guys, sat down, and we're really talking some of the challenges of the environment right now in seller financing. And I really was just trying to uncover what was the most important thing for them, which was getting the highest price possible, because they had spent like 32 years building, or 28 years building this facility. So that's kind of how it all evolved, as far as acquiring the deal or getting a shot at it.
Hey, podcast listener, are you looking at buying your first storage facility, but you're not confident in your numbers or don't know what risks may lie? Well, we actually do feasibility studies for storage facilities that you can even provide to your bank. We do the underwriting, we look at the market, we tell you where the upside is and the risks, so you can move forward in confidence and have a business plan. So day one, when you buy that facility, you know what it's worth and what you need to do. If you want to learn more about our feasibility studies, follow the link in the show notes.
How did that conversation look when you were talking about seller financing? Were they open to it? Did they understand it versus conventional? How did that whole process go?
Yeah, they were actually very sophisticated. They are very sophisticated guys. The seller, he could run spreadsheets for you, anything that you wanted with amortizations or whatnot, but he saw the dip. They had been under contract with another group and the interest rates went up. I think AJ, you and I were walking on the dock at like the Coeur d'Alene event like 2 years ago talking about this. I had another $8 million deal under contract then, and it got blown because of the interest rate hike so quickly. And you were telling me that $150 million portfolio blew up in the same day or whatever.
Yep,
so
that's right.
So these guys saw their valuation drop by like $1 million to $1.4 million. And like I said before, getting that highest price, it was their most important thing. So the only way, I have done a good amount of creative deal structuring in the single family side over the years. So that was the only way to really accomplish both goals. And so that's where we started digging in on how we could get it done.
That's awesome. And now tell us about the facility.
Yeah, so the facility, so it's just shy of 121,000 square feet. Drive up. It's got a, believe it or not, a mixed martial arts studio. If anybody needs to tighten up your jujitsu skills.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, we've got a. They had just built a new office like a year before, and then they have like this. We also have this big area in the back. We call it the toy box. It's like a flex space with bathroom and everything else. So we did go to a remote management model, which we were hesitant to do. I guess I didn't talk about the third party aspect of this either. I'll talk about it, but we went to a remote management. So we knew that we weren't going to be able to scale up our team quick enough to acquire this. And I can talk about the down payment too, because that was kind of a cool story. But we knew we weren't going to be able to scale up in time. So we decided to go with third party and then slide over and become the asset manager and put on the asset management hat. So that has been so we interviewed like 5 different companies and met with 5 different companies, 2 of them that are pretty big in the industry. One of them had a remote management model and one of them had a like full service person at a desk model. And after talking to both of the owners, we decided to go of these companies. We decided to go with the remote management, which I know you're cringing at that size that we're doing that based on what you teach us, AJ.
Hey, if you can do it, you can do it. That's great. Bigger margins.
Well, and that's the thing. It was about a $3,600 per month difference, but it wasn't really that as much as this third party manager was doing like 200 of them this way in similar size. Like not all of them were that big, but they do have a chunk of them that were larger. They were doing so, including his own. So we decided to go that route, and that was interesting transition. So to answer your question, that was November 21st, we closed. Mm-hmm. So we're like 10 weeks in. So it was very interesting seeing how this all played out I just reviewed all the numbers with Gene, but We lost about, we were at, so it was at 95% physical occupancy when we got it. And it was about 92% economic. And now we're at 90% physical and 95% economic because we collected a ton of fees and things like that. So we've increased. We saw the revenue dip initially. We thought it dipped about $8,000 the first month, and it did. And now we're back up like a positive 10,000 over what we bought it at. Right.
There you go.
It's just, man, Gene's like, will you stop committing to deals until we get one of them? Like, can we get them into the system before
I feel you,
go
Mike.
out
I
and
feel
buy
you.
more?
I feel you.
I'm like, married life. I'm like, come on. So
that's how it works. That's how it works.
How it
We
went.
see it almost in all our assets. We take them over, revenue dips, right? And you got to turn them around. You got to clean up. That cleanup is revenue contraction. And the more you got to clean up, the more it's going to contract before you can get it to lift.
Yeah. So we had, the prior owner strategy was, and they still believe this, like, why would I have, 60 units vacant by however you're going to manage it when I could have people paying like half as much, but keep them all in there. And so we were, very respectful of their experience in that market, because here's the thing, it's not a huge market. It's a 26,000 MSA. So we knew the risks. And I wanted to say this on this podcast, like, there's so many people that wouldn't do this deal, but I use my own money and I know the risks. So we identified all the pros and cons, and you just got to know your upside and cover your downside. And that's what we did. So, our idea, so I was able to get 10-year financing, and our idea is just to literally slow roll the revenue and just slightly increase it for 10 years every month or every year, we'll measure it annually, but so that was basically the plan, because that fixed payment is staying right here for 10 years.
Yep.
And with inflation alone, if we ever decide to sell, yes, it's a smaller market. The REITs aren't in there, but I'm sure there's like a small family office or somebody that may want the cash flow, right? So,
well, and especially you get into environment where lower interest rates, everything else like that. So you'll have it's, swing. That's one of the things that we're looking at even in today's market, right? I'm like, date the rate, buy the asset, because those things will change and that external stuff will obviously change, but it's what you can do internally, like you've already done, 10,000, right, more above. And then that's what matters. You keep bolstering that, and you haven't even gone through a busy season yet. So
I know. That's what we thought with seasonality and the change in management. And there's been some bumps. Like this company uses their first tier customer services offshore, which of course ticked off a ton of people in that market. Things like that I'm not loving, but initially we're like, wow, this is a bad idea. And then now we're getting it, 10 weeks in, it's like, oh, it's actually leveling out the way it's supposed to be, you know?
Yeah. And then you'll go through a busy season and you'll add even more.
Yes.
So it'll be good.
And we do have room for expansion, but it's like in that market, we're like, let's just manage this asset as best we can for now. And
tell me about the competition in that market. Are you kind of the crown one?
We are. I wouldn't say it by, we're just by size for sure.
Yes.
The other ones are, you might get to 30,000 square feet. There's a lot of little ones like 10 to 15,000 square feet sprinkled throughout.
Yeah.
Just operationally speaking, going from the way they were running it before to now, what did that process look like, and how do tenants interact with your facility now versus before? Did they use the person at a desk model prior, or?
They did, yeah. The two owners were there in the new office, and they knew everybody, right? So, Jean, my wife, she kind of said, like, even here with our smaller facilities here, I know everybody, and if someone's having a bad month or something, or they have some legit family reason, I might give them an extra like 2 weeks. And so these gentlemen were doing the same thing, just out of human nature, right? So the bigger cat came in with all that's one of the downfalls of using this model is you come in with a one size fits all corporate procedure manual, right? So it's like so and so doesn't pay by this date, they're out. Like you try to call in your payment by phone, $9 fee, and so people were getting really ticked off, and rightfully so because it was a huge change. So it's been interesting, Connor. So now when they roll up, there's a QR code and it says like scan here or call this number, and they can rent on site, and the team on the back end walks them through it. So that did make me super nervous that we were going that hardcore. We do have a boots on the ground in the area that he checks in, like he's great. He checks in like 3-4 times a week, walks the units, overlocks and does everything we need to do there.
And, it's interesting though, obviously every time we take over a facility, some tenants are going to be mad because you can only operate in one way, and you're changing something from what they were used to, right? So you're always going to have people that are going to be ticked off, they're going to be mad. We are a much more rigid management structure, right? It's like, no, here's the rules, here's what we're doing, you're doing it this way, right? And when we take over facilities, that doesn't really work for some. But what happens is you move over the population for that business model. So you will attract the people that work better with those business models. And so it's not even necessarily that one's bad or not, but the shift itself, right, is a change up in tenants and how they can feel about it sometimes. Now, when you're in a tight market, though, lots of times that doesn't really matter, right? There's nowhere else to go and everything else. So you can really do a lot with that, and it is what it is. So you work on efficiencies, and then you got to work though to get higher paying tenants. In fact, tight markets can be really hard to find your desirable tenants because you just don't have space, right? And so you're not actually having a lot of turnover, and everybody's trying to get it. And so you could be passing up every day your primo desired tenant, and you don't even know it. And so that's why when we look at it, that almost aggressive style that we come in with everything from rate management. So if we're really trying to match up with our desired tenant, and that's disruptive, right? It is. And management style's disruptive. But I'm also shocked at how people quickly get used to the new style. It does not take long.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like you said, Mike, earlier, I mean, talking to the sellers previously, that, they couldn't wrap their head around why would I have lower occupancy and higher revenue. And I mean, this is just a prime example of getting those better tenants in. Operationally speaking, it just makes your life, everyone's lives, a million times easier when you do have that ideal tenant that fits that model coming in, and they exist. They're out there. Get them in your facility.
That was the one thing with the management company. They had a younger on-site rep meet me. Not that it matters, but it was just her perspective was interesting to do when I did the closing, we immediately transferred over, and they were like, don't worry, we'll get all new tenants for the ones that leave, that'll be better tenants. Exactly what you said, Connor. But I'm like, did you do the analysis like I did that this is a smaller market and we got to tiptoe a little bit, right? So we ended up doing a price increase in January to a third of the tenants. We have 645 units, and that did help with the price increase. But now we're waiting to see what our move in, move out ratio is for February.
Well, hopefully you get some room because you need some for the busy season. If you don't have right now, we trend at our lowest vacancy. So, we're here the first day of February is when we're filming this. And so right now, February is always our lowest occupancy month. Why? Because March, right? That we're changing tides. We're going into the busy season. So we actually want units to sell. So hopefully you get some people to move out so you can fill them back up.
Yeah, that would be great. So
now,
it's been a great experience. I've just been my strategy thus far has been, look at my existing portfolio. I look at all of our investments, no matter what they are, and just say look at them like a track, right? So each one's its own individual track. So say I bought a house because I sold 2 houses to put down to 1031 into this facility, which worked out great because the seller, this is why I tell people, like, talk to people and see what they need.
Yes.
And he just needed this to cash out by the end of the year. So I just put down another chunk of earnest money when I needed an extra 30 days. And he's like, do you need to sell something to buy this? I said, I don't need to, but it would be great because I'm shifting around things in my portfolio. So he's like, all right, cool. So that's what we did. And now I'm looking at like anything else like that has debt equity. Say I paid off a house 15 years ago and it's just sitting there bringing in $1,800 a month, but it's worth $280.
Yep.
I'm like, well, $280 down on a storage facility. Can I trade that in for now an asset that I can get a lot more upside, either expanding or increasing operations, right?
100%.
So, you know, I've been struggling with, I've brought in private money on single family deals for years, and I've been sort of struggling with, like, do I want to syndicate? Do I want to just bring JV partners, or let me exhaust all my own resources first, which you know will happen at some point. And so it's really the one thing I measure as I get older, I'm like dating myself, but is really ROE, return on effort. Because you know what it's like when you make a deal with a private lender, an LP investor, or whatever. I mean, your integrity in the way you run your business, you're going to maintain that relationship. So it's just a different. I don't know. We're trying to figure out what we want to be when we grow up with some of that stuff.
No, 100%. And obviously that's a big decision. I like to say, yeah, I own my business, everything else like that, but my investors are my boss. I work for them.
Yeah.
And I do, right? I work for them, and I got to put in the time and the effort, and I invest our own capital, everything else. So it's a big shift. And I remember it took me a long time to decide if I wanted to move model, because like you, we just used our own money. We just moved it over, right? We refinanced, we worked, we bought, we built companies, sold them, and kept pulling it in. It was just like nonstop. We were doing it. And so it was like, okay, if we want to do that, the ROE, right, as you like to put it, especially up front, is not good. In fact, we looked at it and was like, I'm going to work way more for way less for quite a while. And so it's like, we really got to scale this to make it worth it. But I think that your analysis on ROE, right, is like ROT, right, return on time. That's really important for people to do, more so than ROI. And there's not a right answer. Everybody is different, right? And I think you're right too, obviously. The older you get, that T, the R has to be really, really high, because that's just becomes more important to all of us, right? Like my kids, I'm going to basketball games tonight, right? Everything else. So that thought process, though, what are your next steps? Are you just do you want to keep going into storage? Are you going to just take one at a time right now and keep buying them? Do you after this last one, which is a different from your other two? What's your outlook now?
It's interesting because I own this warehouse in a hot area, Charlotte, it's only like 10,500 square feet, and I got it approved for 10 apartments and some storefronts. We were going to add to the top of it, and then COVID hit and it just didn't make sense. So now I'm actually doing some flex space models where people get a furnished office, and it's a cool old warehouse with like wood beam ceilings and stuff. And I like the flex space as well. So I'm really like, Gene and I really care about NOI. We just want like monthly income. It's nice building things with a lot of equity, but equity is not a cereal called equities. Like it's got to churn out every month so you can live or whatever. So I've done some creative zero down deals for packages of duplexes and stuff with people, and those are high monthly payments. It's chunking down a ton of equity annually, but not, you're kind of feeding the beast a little bit if you have a bad month. So we're trying to not do that kind of stuff. And I love storage. I want to do as much of it as I can. I got an owner finance, another 3.6 acres that's bolted onto that first facility I was telling you. It's right there behind a CVS and a McDonald's and a grocery store. And I already got it approved for more storage. So I talked to that seller, older guy. He's like very successful electrician business in the area. And he's like, you know what? I go, do you need cash or not? He's like, I go, I wouldn't think you would with the amount of income you're generating. He's like, no. So I was able to work a deal with that where I got it on a lease option for 18 months with a master lease, no payments. And I've got it, we should be able to put 60,000 square feet on it at least. I love to build stuff. At the end of the day, I really love to build stuff. Like if I'm having a relaxing day, it's me with a bunch of tools on a job site.
Yeah.
But I'm paying myself $10 an hour, but I'm enjoying it, so listening to country music, like this is where it's at. Now, if I did that every day, I'd be exhausted, but I love doing that.
That's awesome.
So that's what I'm doing, all the trim in my office and everything. Like I just enjoy doing it. So
you just like it.
I just like it. It's like it's what I will choose to do. Like if I don't do any more real estate, but not for other people, but just building stuff on my own place or whatever. So to answer your question, I've kind of got like 3 tracks. I'm looking at my goal is to take our current portfolio and get that into other investments in storage, either doing it ourselves, doing some in some of your deals or whatever makes sense there. Then I really would like to develop one a year for the next 5 years, just because I like to do development. So we'll see how the first one goes here. And then I think based on our acquisitions model that we built with inside sale, we've got a marketing team and whatever, but I need to be able to follow up on these leads and whatnot in a better fashion. We just haven't put the work in there, especially since we got this other one. I believe as our deal flow rises, then I'll be like, hey, AJ, I think I probably need to like JV this one, or maybe I do need to syndicate, but I'm going to keep like, I don't know. I just don't want any black swan events at this point. I'm like, you got to live to fight another day, right? So
100%.
I have a lot of buddies that are successful real estate investors in their 20s, and they're just like ripping the Band-Aid off, raising 18, 20 million bucks, haven't done anything, but they're like, I don't care. I can recover by 31. And I'm like, yeah, I love that, but that's not where I am right now. So
100%, 100%. I'm right there with you.
No kidding. As you continue forward in your experience so far, are you going to continue with the third-party management model, or do you think you'll build out your own management portion of your company?
I will say this was a huge learning experience by having your own that we've had for 2 to 3 years or 3 years. And then, so you know how it's supposed to go, even at a smaller level, right? And then being able to see their processes and procedures and how they handled the transition and how they're doing it on an ongoing basis for a larger facility. That would help us, Connor. If the only reason we would really shift is if we either buy so many of them that it just makes sense to have a bigger team to do it, or we're not happy with their service, right? So we're watching it extremely closely. I will say this group assigned us a new regional manager to them, which sounds scary, but it's not. He's so open to working with my wife on everything that she's like, hey, I think we need to be doing this, and I think we need to be doing this. And he's like, I agree. By the way, we already did this and this. So it's really, they're just like, they're like, we're really have a good teamwork going right now if it lasts. So if I can spend more of my time, acquiring more facilities or raising money or whatever we decide to do, that's what I want to do, Connor, until it becomes a problem, I guess, or inefficient.
Yeah, there's another piece that was important that you talked about with that piece of land, I believe it was you were talking about, that's bolted onto the property that you have now, and the coordination with the owner there, where you asked the question, again, you dove in, you found the problem, you came up with a solution, but the question you posed was, do you even need the cash? Which I don't think is even a question that a lot of us think about when we're looking at buying something, because the idea of buying something is exchanging, some kind of currency, right? And so I think it's really important to point out that those are real discussions that happen when you're talking to these sellers of storage facilities, of properties, is their problem might not even be the need for cash. It might just be they need to focus on something else, and it has nothing to do with the cash, just like that situation you highlighted. So just wanted to put some extra emphasis on that, because such a key point that I think a lot of us get caught up in, with this idea that we just have to have this money right now, or we have to exchange right up front. There's so many just creative ways to structure those deals to where you can get in right now today, solve a problem for a seller, and you're off to the races.
Yeah, definitely find the problem instead of assuming the problem. And just because that's how the market works in transacting, it doesn't mean you're actually getting to the root of it. And their problem may be way better for you if you solve it. And so, I love that. Well, Mike, this has been awesome. I love your story. I love seeing you. How you're going. Obviously, your friend. I'm just so excited. I was so stoked when you got that deal. I was like, it's and how it all works out. I love how you're just talking to people, networking, and getting it done when other people are like, oh, we're pencils down, we're not doing anything, and we can't find any deals, and you're out there and you just got it done. I think that's awesome. But where can people go if they want to get a hold of you, man? If they want to find out more about you, where should we send people?
Well, yeah, you can go to LinkedIn. I'm on there. I believe it's under Michael Moulton. Instagram, Michael T. Moulton, or my website, optimisticcapital.com. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. I always love hanging with you guys, either in person or virtual. So this has been great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Hey, you too, man. Thanks.
We'll link all that stuff in the show notes for you.
That's right.
So,
thanks, man.
Thanks. We'll see you.
All right, thank you.